Okay, welcome everybody. We're so excited that you're here. Susan is going to talk to us about time management today, and I will let her introduce herself, but I'm glad that you're here because we could all use a little bit of support when it comes to time management. Am I right? Okay, great. So Susan, I will let you take the reins and introduce yourself. We are very excited that you're here.
Well, I am excited to be here, and thanks so much for inviting me and having me here. This is absolutely my favorite topic to talk about. I am happy to be interrupted if anybody has questions while we go. Please put them in the chat. People are watching the chat. They'll have to interrupt me, but that's okay. We'll address those questions as they arise. Also, I will ask all of you, as I'm talking initially here at first, try to pull up your calendar on your computer. We are going to do a little bit of exercise as we go through this. So hopefully you'll leave with a little bit of structure in place. So we're going to talk about time management, but the important part about this is being intentional about it. We can manage our time to high heaven, but if we aren't doing the things that are the most important things, it doesn't matter. We all have limited time. Uh, the people who really excel in business and in the world are the ones who know how to make that time go the furthest, that use that time the most intentionally on the things that matter the most. So jumping in here, let me give you a little rundown of who I am. I'm Susan Fennema. I'm the Chaos Eradicating Officer, that's CEO, with Beyond the Chaos. Beyond the Chaos helps overwhelmed small business owners simplify their operations and manage their processes so that they can grow their business and get their lives back. So many of us are trapped by our business. We're letting it drive us instead of us driving it. This is one of the victim mentalities that I will talk about as far as time as well. So we'll speak about that victim mentality as we get into this. I have 30 plus years. I have stopped saying the exact number of experience in project management and operations. I also worked 10 years as an ops director at a small pharma ad agency. And I fully believe if you can do advertising, you can do anything. It is one of the most the hardest environments to work in, the most challenging people, so many moving parts. And that gives you a skill set to be able to quick switch and to be able to learn how to say no when you have to say no. I have 13 years of work from home. I was ahead of the curve. In 2010, I worked as a project manager and ops manager for a small software company. That actually pushed me to want to remain virtual. And that's when I started my own business. And I have been a business owner for 7 years. I'm also a home chef. And so managing time comes into play there too. If you're trying to make a 4 or 7 course dinner for 12 people in a limited amount of time, a little bit of project management plays into that as well. I think, so enough about me. Let's jump into how life has changed since 2020. I've been virtual since 2010, but most people have not. Most people went to a job. If you were a small business owner, you probably didn't have as much expectation of being on all the time. What I've learned since 2020 is everyone is living and working in a different situation. Some are loving working from home, some absolutely hate it. So as you're working with your clients, it's important to remember that they are in a different world, and it's struggling. It's a struggle for some if they're working from home. And as you ladies will know, you might have elderly child care to deal with. You might have a spouse that also works from home. You're having kids coming in and out throughout the day and interrupting you. You could be working in an office. Mine, I have a great office here. But you could also be working at your kitchen table, a bed in your studio apartment, on your couch, the back of a van. We can work anywhere right now. I talked to one guy who was holed up in his bathroom with a folding table and chair because it was the only place that he could go to have privacy. So there are a lot of different work example or work situations that we have to take into account. And the results of all of these are a complete and total lack of boundaries and structure. Work from home, people, even us as owners and leaders of our own company, as freelancers working for others, we don't know how to draw those boundaries with our clients. We don't know how to manage the child interaction, the refrigerators being delivered, as is happening today. All of those things that cross over, because now we don't have work-life balance. We're managing a lifestyle that we've created. And that lifestyle, it might not be balanced, and that might be okay. Quite honestly, I don't want 8 hours at work and 8 hours on personal and 8 hours to sleep. I like working more. So this is really about how are you setting it up so that your work and life is balanced the way you want it. So you're managing your lifestyle. What we want to prevent is that overwhelm and burnout that can come from constantly working. So these theories that I'm going to share, they are going to apply whether you want to work 60 hours a week or 10, whether you're a stay-at-home parent, a corporate employee, or a business owner. Anybody can use these skills to help them manage that lifestyle better. Quickly jumping in, we want to talk about these things. The first thing is being intentional. A lot of people are feeling like they're being drug around by their schedule or being very reactive. You are in charge, y'all. Don't be a victim. You are in charge of your time. You are in charge of your business. So don't be a victim to the outside forces. Intentionally use your time. And so what does that mean? Stephen Covey, some of y'all might have heard of him, wrote a great book many, many years ago called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. But one of the things he talks about is how to fit things into your day. So y'all might have heard this story before. I'm going to try to bring it to life as it applies to this. If you have a really large jar, and I always want to do this as an actual demonstration, but I don't want a bunch of water and sand on my desk. So you're going to have to visualize with me. You have a large jar. It's a glass jar. And we have a whole bunch of rocks. We fill the jar up with our rocks. It's full. It's full of rocks. So you think. Pebbles, sand, and water could still be added in there. So you can put pebbles next. You can put sand next. You can put water in. Now you have a full jar. The point of this is do the important things first, because the rocks won't fit if they go in last. The rocks are the most important thing. And the point too is you want to eliminate distractions. So we don't want to be a victim to outside forces like email, social media, phone, text, chats, all those things that ping, 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 ping all day. We want to eliminate those distractions so that we can do the important things first, that we can focus on those rocks. The other part of this is it helps you set realistic expectations. So as we're managing our calendar with these concepts, we're able to look out and say, okay, my day is full. My week is full. When is the next time I can realistically meet with somebody? I can meet with a new client for 3 weeks. Is that good? Maybe that's not good. Maybe I need to rearrange some priorities so that I could meet with a new client sooner than that. So that view that we're going to create together lets you help set much more realistic expectations of what you can manage and what you can handle. So let's start with our rocks. What do y'all think would be a rock that would go on a calendar? I'm going to now look at the chat quickly here, as y'all are welcome to do that, or just speak up. Sleep, meals, client work. Okay. What else we got? Anybody else have something that you think is a rock? All right. Walking your dog. I agree with that. Exercise. So we're getting on the right track a little bit. Megan, your answer of client work, I think you're going to be surprised, is absolutely not on the rock list. The rocks are our personal priorities. And these are what they are. And these are in the priority they are. Because the number one thing that we have to do is take care of ourselves. We cannot give, we cannot serve unless we have something to give. If all is taken from us, then we're in a bad place. So first priority is your God or your spirit, however you look at that spiritual aspect of yourself. It could be daily prayer. It could be meditation. It could be attending church once a week. Whatever brings peace to your soul and revives your spirit. That's the main part of ourselves, is that spirit. If that spirit's not there, that's when we're going to get burnout. That's when we're going to get overwhelmed. That's when we're going to not act nice to people, right? We have to act nice to people. And when we get overwhelmed and burned out, we don't. So making sure that we're looking at our spirit first. Next is health. So are we exercising and moving? I think a lot of business owners will just say, oh, I don't have time to go to the gym. Oh, I don't have time to walk the dog. I'm just going to sit at my desk and work all day. When you're young, you might be able to overcome that. Let me tell you that at my age of 57 years old, I have learned the hard way that if I don't make that a priority, I end up at the chiropractor. I end up at the doctor. I'm sick. I am miserable. I make it a point that I have to move every day. And the other part of that is eating properly. When you get stressed, there are two reactions. One is I'll just drive through McDonald's. The other is I'll just skip a meal. Neither one of those is a good solution. Neither one of those is going to feed your body the right fuel it needs to get that brain working. So make sure that you're eating properly, that you're standing up, taking breaks. I'm at my standing desk right now. I love to present from my standing desk. I also have my watch that reminds me to stand up when I don't. Those types of things are very important to make sure that you have a longevity here. The other rock is social. Family, friends, your kids, lunches with colleagues. How are you socially interacting, especially now that we're working from home, many of us alone? I have a team of 14. At least I'm interacting with them every day on Slack, but still, you need personal interaction to help you be a lot more even keeled. So that has to be a priority. And then, as Riley mentioned, sleep. Sleep is hugely important. If you are not getting enough sleep, your brain is not powered to serve others. Your day starts the night before. So it's one of the very first things that we're going to put on our calendar. So let's do it together. Everybody pull up your calendar. I'm going to stop this screen share here and share I created a blank one so that I can walk you through this. But everybody pull up a calendar here and let's work on this together. Let's see. I'm not sure if I shared my whole screen. I think I did. I don't want to do that. Here we go. Just the calendar. That's what we want. You'll notice mine is blank. I'm going to show you mine at the end, my working calendar at the end, but let's start. Now, I know y'all already have things on your calendar, so you're not starting from scratch. So sometimes it's hard to get started on this, and that's okay. What I recommend is let's put the intention in first. And if for the next 2 or 3 weeks, as you have to, manage what was already there, that's okay. We can rearrange or do the best we can as we ease into it. But let's start with those personal rocks. So what's the first thing we want to put in? When are we going to bed? I like to get up around 6:30. So I need a time. I do a evening wind down starting about 10. Okay. And easy way to set this up, repeat it. So you're not entering this every day. Okay. It's a great idea if you can maintain the same thing through the weekend, because that keeps you a little bit more even on your sleep. But if you're out having a good time, that's okay. We can rearrange that. And once they're repeating, if for example, on Friday, I have to get up at 5:30. So on Thursday night, I want to make sure that I'm actually winding down earlier at 9. So I'm just going to move it for that day. So sleep first. The next thing is let's make sure that we have our spirit. If you go to church every Sunday, put that on the calendar. I'm just going to turn on my little St. Michael's thing here because it pulls in most of my church activities. What it doesn't pull in is my morning routine that starts when shortly after I wake up, where I do daily readings every morning. So I will start daily readings and I do them only Monday through Friday. So I'm just going to set that up that way too. So whatever you are doing, if it's meditation, whatever you're putting on your schedule, go ahead and set that up. Again, Friday, I won't be here. So Friday, I'm not doing it. I'm just going to have to skip it. I can't drive all the way to Dallas and do this. I can maybe do some in the car, but it'll be a little bit different. So set it up the way that you want it to work. I'm actually working on my church festival. So I have that even slated for me to work on every weekend. So that will pull those in. And now let's talk about health. When are we working out? When are we walking the dog? Whatever our thing might be. I walk my dog on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I'm going to put that in as a custom Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And there we go. The other thing that we don't think about a lot, and I actually go to the gym on Tuesday, Thursday. So gym, Tuesday, Thursday. Custom, Tuesday, Thursday, done. Other thing we don't think about is eating. When are we eating? In the morning, I do breakfast after I walk the dog, but before I go to the gym. So I'm going to have this on my calendar, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. For ease, I'm going to just do it for quickness here. I'm just going to do it here, but I would do it on Tuesday, Thursday before. So that's set up for the week. I'm not doing it on Friday again. I have a meeting downtown, so I can't do it. But see how I'm making choices as I'm already going, right? I know I can't, that's okay. We can give it up, but what's our intention? The other is, what are we doing social? Here's one I love. I don't want to miss my Aggie games. So I actually have a calendar that shows me when they are, and it pops up and I'm going to watch that. So you might have kids soccer games. Get that schedule on your calendar so you can go to them. And then also holidays. Are we recognizing holidays? I think this is an important thing. I don't think we have many this week, but you can subscribe to those calendars, pull them so that Thanksgiving shows up, so that if we go back here to Labor Day, it actually shows up on our calendar and we remember not to work that day, right? Okay, so that's our main things. That's a little bit of an example of what our main setup might look like. Any questions on that before we go to the next thing? I'm checking chat here too. I love the cookies. Okay, so let's jump in to our next priority here. Let me reshare screens. I'll get to look at my fishies while I pull this up. All right. So our pebbles are our professional priorities. These are the things we want to put into our calendar next. So our first professional priority is performing our main job function. I mean, what is it? Is it working on the business? Is it doing sales? Is it coding or creating? You know, if you're a software developer or a social media manager, is it doing that client work? What is that main function of your job? And that's going to be different for all of us. For me, it's working on my business. So I have things slated on my calendar called focus time that I'm focused on. What are the big things I need to do to move my business ahead? It used to be sales, but now I have help with sales. So as you grow, those priorities might change. And so I needed to make sure that sales was always accommodated. If you are doing all the things in your business, you're going to have to decide what's most important. And that can be very hard. What is your main function? But what we can set up is a way that you can see that it is balanced. So are you doing the client work the majority of the time, but are you allowing enough time to continue to sell and to continue to create those things that help you grow your business? Excuse me. Other thing that we want to look at for the intentional work is knowing yourself. We want to do this intentional work during our most energetic times. You know, if you wake up, sorry, let me grab a drink real quick. I don't want to cough all through the whole thing. If you wake up full of energy and ready to go, maybe that's when you want to do your work. Maybe you don't walk the dog first thing. Maybe you do your work and then walk your dog. That's okay. Whatever works for you. I am definitely one that if I have little things hanging over my head, little to do things that I should have checked off, I can't focus on the big things. So most of my focus time is in the afternoon, but other people find that stuff draining. And so if they're working their to-do list, they're exhausted and they can't think about the big things. So think about those things when you're scheduling that on your calendar too. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how do we, when we're working on the business, when we're doing big picture things, how do we make that time work? So if I've slated 2 hours to work on something, I sure better know what I'm doing in those 2 hours first. What are the priorities that I'm working on during those 2 hours? And am I giving myself a deadline? There's something called the Pomodoro technique. You can go to pomofocus.io, pomofocus.io, as an example of a little timer that you can use. Pomodoro is essentially I work for 50 minutes, I break for 10, or I work for 25 minutes and I break for 5. So you set yourself up that you have deadlines. If you just have a general intention, I'll make progress, great. If you have a deadline, you're like, I got to get it done by this time, you will actually accomplish something. So setting up those little mini deadlines for yourself is great. If you cannot accomplish the goal or the intention during that time frame, then you need to break them down more. That means maybe there's a smaller piece of it that you can accomplish during that time. This is a project management type feature where you're project managing yourself to accomplish big things by breaking it down into very small steps. Pomodoro helps with that because that deadline thing, you know, you're like, I got to get it done by then. The other thing to remember on these professional priorities is that you will have appointments, you will have meetings, you will have all of that stuff. If you're driving to something, don't forget to include your travel time. If you're going to meet someone, that's often something that gets overlooked, that, oh yeah, I can squeeze that in. And then, oh yeah, I didn't have time to get there. Or you're frantically driving too fast, which is also probably not that safe. So make sure you're putting the travel time in. Other parts of the professional priorities are your obligations to others. So if you have a team member, if you have a virtual assistant, if you have someone supporting you, you have to spend time with them to make sure that they are bonded with your team, that they understand what they're doing for you. It could be networking meetings. It could be mastermind meetings, which I know Let's Work does. So those also are obligations to others. Those need to go on your calendars. One of the things I hear a lot is for those who are running teams, if they have a lot of team members, they're like, oh, I'm just interrupted all day because they have to ask me questions. I run into this tool a lot with software developers in particular, where the software developer started the business because they were a fantastic software developer. And now they have these team members and they're directing them and they're delegating to them, but they're still the most knowledgeable coder. So everybody's interrupting them all day saying, how do you do this? Where do I find this? How do I manage this? Okay, stop. That's madness. Set some office hours. One, encourage team members to solve the problems on them for themselves first. But if they can't, maybe you say, I am available every day between 1 and 2 on my calendar for you just to pop in and ask me any question you want. If nobody joins you, great. Do your admin work during that time period, right? If they join you, you can help them, and now you're not interrupted all day long. And they know when they can come to you. The other is that if you don't have a big team like that to support, but you do need to support team members, Calendly is a fantastic tool. Build yourself a 15-minute Calendly link and have your team find a time on your calendar so that it is actually scheduled in your day and is not an interruption. Interruptions are what kills productivity, and it also is what makes you a victim to time. So anything we can do to let that down or to let that go is good. Let's try this part. Let's get the pebbles on our calendar next. So I'm going to pull up the calendar here. And we will do that part. So for ease, I'm going to pull my calendar blocking calendar up. Just to show a little bit about what that might look like, and I'll talk you through it. So for this week, for example, I do work with a client. I have one client that I work with 4 hours a week. So I need to make sure they get 4 hours from me every week. So they have a time block that is consistent and repeating. I also every day am checking in. I didn't work on Monday. That's why it's empty. I'm every day checking in with some tasks to perform that are recurring. I'm checking my email, checking my finances. I'm checking LinkedIn to see if I need to respond to anyone. All those are regularly recurring every day. You'll see right before this meeting, I blocked time to make sure that I wasn't scrambling at the last minute to get in front of y'all, that I had my presentation ready, that I had my drink ready, luckily, so I stopped coughing at you guys. And you'll see too that I had focus time yesterday afternoon. I do have a Vistage meeting tomorrow, which is a giant mastermind. So that's my focus time on Friday. But you'll see throughout that it's regularly on my schedule. I'm sorry, y'all. I had strep throat last week, so I'm getting over that a little bit. And there are other things I'm working on. A conference, I'm working on writing a book. You'll see I've slotted those things in. So they're on my calendar consistently. I have time to work on them. So this, now you're starting to see that structure, that focus time or that client work time should be fit in your schedule at the time that works best for you. All right. Any questions on that so far? All right. Now let's jump back in. All right. We're going to skip that. All right. Oops. I think I skipped too many. All right. So I would suggest picking 2 blocks of time that are your focus, whether it's on your business or whether it's on client work. That's up to you. Pick 2. Pick your office hours if you have team, and make sure that those get on your schedule. Now let's talk about the sand and the water. The sand and the water is really email, social media, chat tools, phone, text. It's all that, everything pinging you all day long, right? Here is the absolute #1 thing you can do to prevent that. Turn it off. If your email is open all day, that's crazy. That means your email is telling you what to do all day. And email is addictive, right? You're like, oh, I'm answering people, I'm getting stuff done. And then you're like, yeah, and none of it was important. You know, it feels good. It's not good. So don't leave it open. Same with social media, the pings, the likes, you know, it can be exciting when you get them, but choose when you're going to do it. I have a virtual assistant who does my email. One of the best things ever. If you can get a virtual assistant to manage that email for you, it's going to save you so much time. They can tell you what's important for you to look at, and you don't get sucked in. Having an inbox 0 is really important for this. You want to make sure that when you are going into your email, it is not completely overwhelming, that it doesn't bombard you with 200 messages, half of which are read, some of which you skipped. If you are at inbox 0, you don't have noise. This is like data clutter. So the more you can clear out, the better you're off. If you have a whole bunch of emails that are really old in your inbox, you might just need to declare bankruptcy. And that's okay. Because guess what? If they're older than a week and a half, they're probably not important anyway. So, and if somebody needs you, they'll respond. If you're using email to manage your projects, we need to talk, because there is a better way, and that is not the way. So email is not a project management tool. We don't want to be working in email as our project management tool. So if you are, let's fix that. But being able to clear that noise and start at 0 is important. And when you come in to check your email, we want to go through quick decision making. When you look at them, there are very few choices. This is informational. I have read it. I am archiving it. I don't need it anymore. It's in my brain. Done. It's a project, a piece of project information. Put it where it goes. Does it go in your project tool? Does it go in your CRM if it's a sales thing? If you have tools that capture that automatically, all the better. Third, respond quickly. It's a quick question. I know the answer. Respond. Get it out of your box. Move on. Spam, junk, unsubscribe. How many of y'all have been asked 1,000 times about your website, or, you know, all these people, they're going to help you do all these things, some of which y'all probably do yourselves. You know, unsubscribe if you can, but I also highly recommend that if you do not know where it's coming from, do not hit that button. It could make it worse. I actually have a client who has written a rule that anything that says unsubscribe goes to a folder, a specific folder. So they can go through that folder quickly when they have time and pull out the things that they want and ignore the rest. Now, the last thing that comes into your email might be something that's thought-provoking. Something, oh, I got to really think about this or make a decision, or how am I going to respond, or have to get information to respond. That kind of becomes an action item. And so if that's the case, we either want to put it in our project management tool where we will manage it as part of project, or I'm going to slate 15 minutes tomorrow to think about this, and then I'm going to respond, or research it, and then I'm going to respond. In both those cases, reply to the person and let them know. So you can reply back and say, hey, I'm going to respond, received your message. Thanks for the inquiry. I need to do a little research on this. I'll get back to you tomorrow at 2:00. And because you know what time you have on your calendar, you can tell them a time. By doing that, you've set a deadline for yourself to get it done. And more importantly, that person's not going to email you again, text you, and call you to get the answer. They know you have the email and you're working on it. So that helps eliminate additional interruptions and additional email.
Hey, Susan, we have a
Yeah.
question in the chat.
Okay.
Jazz asked, do you give your clients access to your project management tool, or do they communicate with you there or via email?
So we encourage our clients to do that. Because of the way we work, we're working in our clients' tool. So we don't have our clients come into ours just because it doesn't make logical sense. But we do encourage our clients to work with their clients in their tool. Some clients are going to love it, and they're like, oh, I can find out everything. And other clients are like, why do I have to use this? It's your job to manage my work, right? Either one is fine. The important part about inviting them is that now you can communicate with them through the comments. And even if they're just responding through their own email, you're capturing it in the place you want it to go to. So if you can get them on board that far, hey, listen, all you have to do is accept the invitation. You don't have to do anything else. Now your email from me will look a little different. Just reply to it and we're all good. A little bit of that education goes a long way to help you solve that. I'm not a fan of copying and pasting a whole bunch of client stuff into your project management tool. So if you can capture it that way, that's better. I hope that answered that. I'm listening.
Jazz, you good? Did that answer it? Okay, cool.
Okay, yep. Great. Let's jump into the rest of the sand and water. So we talked about email and social media, but what about chat tools, phone, text? I love Slack. I could not run my business without Slack. And we use Slack as part of Let's Work. It's open all day, but it doesn't ping me. I can see that there's a notification. I can see what work group it's in. I can decide, is that a work group that's important enough to interrupt me? I want to pay attention to my team. That's part of my main job, is supporting them. So if it's from my team, I'm probably not going to let it sit there. If it's from my client, I know when I'm working on their work, I'm going to look at it then. You can always mark yourself focused or busy if you're working in a place where people really interrupt you all day. There's a way to do that in those types of tools. And remember to be patient if you're communicating with somebody. Give them an opportunity to respond in their time. A lot of times what I do is when I ask a question of someone, I flag it as something to come back to later to make sure it got answered, because my job is not to ask the question, is to get the answer, right? So just in case that person overlooks it, if I flag it to come back to tomorrow morning or in 2 hours, I can ping them again if I need to, but at least that ensures I get the answer I needed and it's not just gone out of my head forever. If you can avoid texting on your personal devices, please do. Please push it to a chat tool whenever possible. And I would even say with clients, try to avoid text altogether. unless you have a business number. So I use Zoom phone and I can get text to my Zoom phone. That keeps it out of my personal world. If you're getting a text or an email that's work related right before you go to bed, guess what's on your mind? Even if nobody has any intention of answering it until the next day, now you're going to sleep thinking about it, or you feel like you have to answer it. I had a team member who was working with a client, and she had given her personal number to that client. Well, the client was texting her in the middle of the night while she was on her trip in London on vacation. That's the day we said as an organization, our team is not even allowed to give out their personal text, because that can't happen. That's not okay. It is one of the most invasive forms of communication, and it is highly interruptive. So anytime you can push text to something else, that's better. Also, text can be overlooked, right? I read them out of my head. It's no longer showing as active and I have ignored it. So let's talk about interruptions for a little while. There are ways to solve them when you're working from home. The baby's going to cry. The dog's going to bark. UPS is going to come. The refrigerator is going to get delivered. All of those things that happen are going to be at the worst possible times. We know this, and we are now operating in a world where we're very used to that. So those are things that you can laugh off. Everyone's experiencing the same thing. Everyone is. So laugh it off, explain it, move on. If there are things going on and you're in a group call, mute it. If your dog's barking at the door, mute it. You know, those things are easy to handle. But if it's something important, say it's a sales call with a brand new person you want to make a great impression on, say you're recording something for a podcast that's going to last forever, or something like this where you really want to be focused on what you're doing. There are things you can do to prevent the interruptions. Put a baby in a playpen or down for a nap. Put your kids in front of their favorite TV show and get them focused on that. Put the dog in the crate or outside. I have even gone as far to put a note on the front door asking UPS not to ring the bell because I'm recording something, because I knew that would start the dog and everything else. So you can put some other things in place. If you're working in a household with a whole bunch of other people, close your door. There are some things that you can do to prevent that. But if it is invasive, excuse yourself and fix it. So don't just keep saying, oh, the dog, oh, the baby, while it's crying and all that's going on in the background. You know, get up and go fix it so that it's not disrupting the rest of it. People understand this if you're just open with them. So we've done a whole bunch of stuff about intentional planning. We've done a whole bunch of stuff about how to set priorities. But what about real emergencies when they come up? How do we handle those? So first, firefighting and emergencies really should not happen in a well-structured, process-driven business. They shouldn't. Everything should be running consistently. If you're not finding that, if you're finding that you're constantly reactive, you're constantly putting out fires, you might want to look at improving the operational processes and structure of how you're handling your business. That could make a huge difference to how you respond, that you respond thoughtfully, and also that you are building something that can start to grow and work without you, because vacation and time away is important. Delegation is another part of it. So if an issue happens, who can handle this issue? Not how do I handle this issue? If we think about it that way, can the VA help? Can will the client solve it themselves? How many times have you had a client call you all freaked out, but if you can't get to the call, all of a sudden, oh, it's fixed. Maybe just wait 15 minutes, see if they solve it themselves. So be thinking about that who and not how. And the other is what we've done by structuring our calendar and structuring our priorities is we've given ourselves space to accommodate the emergency when it comes up. I told you guys I had strep throat last week. Being able to say, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, push that off, reschedule this, I won't do this. Making those decisions quickly is so much easier if you know how you're spending your day. If you don't, now you have extra stress on top of you to handle during the emergency as well. So those are kinds of things to think about as how we structure. I know we're coming up here and I am almost to the end of these, and then we'll take some take some questions and I'll show you my calendar. But response times here is another way to prevent emergencies. So if you're interrupted, it could take 20 minutes to get focused back on what you were doing. So not allowing the interruption is the first priority. The phone doesn't have to be answered, y'all. They're going to leave a message. We have that technology. Nobody is expecting an immediate response, even though in our heads we think they are. In your teams, you can set up normal expected response times. And it's even something you could share with your clients. So here's a perfect example. If you send me an email, you can expect a response within 1 day. My accountant says 2 working days unless it's an emergency. Okay, great. Set the expectation. I won't bug you. You leave me a phone message, I'll get back to you in 4 to 6 hours. You hit me up on Slack, I'll get back to you within 2 hours. If you are calling or texting my personal device, I know it is an immediate emergency and I will do my very best to respond to you right away. So that's why another reason we want to limit that. So you can set those up however works best in your business with your team, and you can communicate that to your client as well. So we've set up our calendar. It's working, but then things start happening and we need to make changes. First, when we've set up recurring events, those can get drugged to different blocks, right? They don't have to stay where they are. I call this calendar Tetris. I think it's kind of fun. It's like a little block management where you're moving time blocks to where they can go. But by having them in the first place, you know the time expectation that you have. So you are able to make a decision. Should I do this? Can I move this? What can I accommodate? It helps with setting realistic expectations. So you're judging what you can say yes to and what deadlines you can make. There are also notes that you can put in the description area of your events to identify what your focus items are, so you can work straight from your calendar. And if you have to move those to a different thing, you can be like, oh, I only got an hour, so I'm going to take this one thing and move it to an hour the next day. You can also use, there's a tool called Taskable that's really cute that works with your calendar if you want to look that up, or your PM tool to identify those things. So I use my project management tool and I have them flagged as a high, medium, and low priority on the days that I have focus items. Calendar Tetris is really fun because it also helps you on those days when you get to your focus time and you're like, y'all, I'm so worn out. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Okay, great. Now you can look and say, do I have to do it because I don't have a time to accommodate this and I'm on a deadline? Or can I move it to, tomorrow afternoon and it'll be fine? Because you know what to expect. So I'm going to give you this little book, and then I'm going to show you behind the scenes and take questions. But if you are interested in 3 ways to control chaos in your small business, we have an ebook. And just go to beyondthechaos.biz/ebook control the chaos. And I'll put that, we can share that link out too. If you'd like, if you're like, Susan, I totally need your help because we're totally managing all of our projects in email. And you just told me we shouldn't, but I have no time to read a book. Just email me, or you can hit me up in Slack because I'm in your Slack. So y'all ready to see behind the scenes and see what my calendar looks like here? All right. Pulling it up. Let me turn on all the different things that I normally manage, and then I'll do the big reveal here. I think I have them all on. All right, here we go. So the pink, let's go to today. The pink is my personal stuff, and you can color code to help you. The pink is my personal stuff. One of the things I like about color coding is it lets you know how balanced are you being. Now my calendar runs from 6:30 until a little bit later in the day, 10. I don't always have things after dinner. A lot of that's free time, which is fine. But these gaps, I leave it open for sales calls, but I want to fill them the day before. So as I get to the day, I might drag something and fill the gap. But I leave it open because I allow an 8-hour window before they sign up, right? But I know right now, tomorrow afternoon, I have this hour, probably not going to fill it. I'm probably just going to be done with work early. So that's also an option, but I also know if something comes up, I have that hour. Next week, I have some time for some potential client meetings, networking meetings, whatever comes up. Those are also some times that you can do things like, this, I think it's my husband's. He keeps putting things on my calendar. Those are also things where you can catch up on admin or that kind of thing. If you want to put that structure into your day, you can. You'll see I have, here I come Wednesday. I want to make a pot roast Wednesday night. Well, you got to start those in the morning. So it's on my calendar, right? Nobody's going to take that time. I'm not going to end up, after this big, long 2-hour meeting going, okay, I guess we're not having pot roast. So those are the types of things I like to be this structured. Some people find this stressful. If you find it stressful, one of the things you can also do is take the empty times and block that as you want it empty. So no one can take it from a Calendly and that you're using it intentionally. All right. I am now very willing, ready, and able to take any questions that you might have.
This was so awesome. I'm curious about how many other people have time blocks like this in their calendar that they are currently using. Kind of, sort of. Okay.
Kind of, sort of.
I know for me, I have like networking and like discovery call blocks in my calendar, and I have client blocks in my calendar, and I have like my regularly recurring networking things in my calendar, so that I know when these things are going to happen. Because before, when my calendar was wide open, I would be switching tasks all the time and nothing was efficient and I wasn't my best. And so I had to create like blocks of client time, blocks of networking time, so that I wasn't trying to do all the things like intermixed. And that made a huge difference. So
doing the client things too. I know many of you work on retainer with your clients. So if you're working on retainer, you've probably promised them a certain number of deliverables or a certain number of hours. If you don't have those on your calendar, how are you ensuring that you're meeting your obligation to them? That's one of the way. And also it helps you focus so that I'm only focused on this client during this time.
Yeah. And it also gives you, like, when I have my client blocks in there, it gives me an idea of how many more clients I can get and onboard, and the law of the vacuum just fills them up. So it's a good way to play with my manifesting brain too, to create that space for those people.
And you will fill any time that you're not spending intentionally, you will fill it.
Oh yeah.
So usually not with the most important thing. When we're doing what we do as business owners, there are a lot of things that feel productive, but are really easy, like getting stuck in my email or surfing through LinkedIn. And you can trick yourself into believing that you're working, and you are, but it is not the most, it is not the best use of your time. Almost 100% of the time, it's not the best use of your time. Now, if you're like, man, I just need an hour to chill. Okay, great. Go through your email, go through that, but do it intentionally. Don't just let it take your time. Riley, I noticed the cutoff for work days. Yep. I love to cook, love to cook. So I make dinner every night, and that's my cutoff. That's my transition. That's like my commute, you know?
Yeah.